So remember, all of our cars are the same dimension, 75 feet long, 10 feet, 10 inches high, 10 feet wide. Some major differences though between the Legacy and the 7Ks. Weight, your 7K train is 42 tons, one car empty, where your Legacy trains are 39 tons, 0.2, 0.6, depending on the series, empty, one car. Another major difference is the capacity. A Legacy car can hold 200 customers. The 7000 is 230 plus. So if you're dealing with an 8-car consist, you could have upwards of 1,600 people on an 8-car Legacy, 1,800 plus on a 7K. The other major difference is, remember, our cars run in a married pair. There's an A and a B car. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we start walking around, but in the Legacy trains, the A and the B car both have an operator's cab. In the 7000, only the A car has an operator's cab. The B car has what we call a Hostler panel, and we'll take a look at that when we go inside. So those are three of the major differences. Something that I want you to keep in mind is important is, how do I access a rail car? Now, I'm not speaking of something on the platform where the operator can open up the doors for you. I'm talking about something that may been involved in an incident and the doors are shut and you need to get inside. There's two doors we want you to use. One is the bulkhead door, which is the very front. If you walk over here, you'll notice some markings on the train that are specific to the fire department. Looking at the bulkhead door, you'll see there's a fire department sticker. It says barrel key. That's to remind you, if you want to go through that door, you need to have your Metro key and you need to use the 27 key, which is the round barrel key, to unlock that door. You'll notice there's 3 handles. Right now, the top handle is in the open position. It needs to be parallel to the side of the car. The bottom handle is parallel to the side of the car. It is also in the open position. You would take your XX barrel key, put it in and turn it 360 degrees to the right, push down on the handle to get in. If you do not have a set, and also that door is keyed locked from both inside and outside. So if somebody's in the train and you're trying to get them to open up the door, they can't open it either unless they have a barrel key. On an 8-car train or on a consist, the doors in between cars are unlocked. So customers can walk from one car to another in the event of an emergency. The end doors are what are keyed locked during revenue. If you look here, it says exterior emergency door release, center door. If you don't have a set of Metro keys, you can always go to either side of the car, look for the fire department sticker, and activate the EEDR. That will spring open the doors. On a 7K. The center door both leaves push back. On a Legacy, only the door closest to you can you push back. You can then get inside the train and release the other door. Why do we tell you front door, center door? And I know some departments like to use the door numbers. I don't teach by door numbers because sometimes you're not going to remember, but hopefully you can remember bulkhead door, center door. And why do we teach you to go to those 2 doors? What's underneath or close to the other doors? The collector shoe. Remember, collector shoes are always hot. We want to stay away from them. So that's why we want you to use the front bulkhead door or the center door. Any questions? So this is all low voltage. Rail cars do not share propulsion power. So if right now, each individual car, one of those collector shoes has to be on live third rail for that car to be hot. Propulsion power is not shared between in the consist, and it's not even shared between the A and B car. Really, the only thing that's shared is 37.5 volts, which is the battery. Now, we talked about the A and the B car. If you look up at all 4 corners of the train, you're going to see a 4-digit number. Obviously, the first number is the series of rail car. The last digit in that series determines whether it's the A or B car. So if that number's odd, it's the B car, as you see here. If that number was even, it's the A car, okay? Most cars are set up almost exactly the same in equipment. A car has the air compressor for the HVAC system and the friction brakes. The B car has the batteries. So if third rail is de-energized, the batteries kick on, they produce 37.5 volts. They last for about 2 hours. They maintain interior emergency lighting, exterior lighting like the tail lights and the headlights, and then some communications equipment. Rail radio so the operator can talk to central. The PA system so the operator can talk to the customers. And then the intercom so the customers can talk to the train operator. Probably one of the most important things to remember about the batteries is what it does not maintain. And that's the HVAC system. So you have a train stranded on dead third rail on a very hot, humid day, those folks inside that rail car are going to want to get out. And it usually takes about 20 minutes for somebody to read the instructions inside the train at the evacuation handle to say, you know what, it's too hot in here, I know a way to get out. So that's why it's important to try to get a first responder on a train that's stranded on dead third rail. Just walking through the consist and ensuring customers that you have a plan to get them out of here will help them stay on board the train. But no communications, they're going to take matters into their own hand and they'll probably start to self-evacuate. All right, I don't remember if the car out at the academy has a coupler, but if you look at the coupler, the orange horn that sticks down, looks like it's that you can move that coupler from left to right. All you got to do is release it at the clip. So if you have that at the training academy, I'll show you how to do that. But remember, if you're running somebody that's been struck by a train and you have to extricate that person, you should have a crew, a company that's already thinking about how are we going to move that patient. Are you going to put them in a sked? You're going to put them in a Stokes basket? Are you going to lift them up, slide them through the center of the train out to the platform if you have to come up on the third rail side? Are you going to put up a Z-rig in front of the train and take the Stokes basket back and then pull them back? That has to be thought about while the other crew is trying to extricate somebody. So when we talk about lifting a train, remember the patient has to be viable. If the patient is deceased, we do not lift trains. But if you have a person that you're trying to is viable, then yes, we'll do everything we can to lift the train up. One thing to keep in mind, I've never seen or heard of anybody being entangled in anything but the actual wheel itself. So usually when a train passes over somebody, when the train stops, which is usually 2.5, 3 car lengths is a lot of times where you'll find the customer. If they're trapped by the wheel. We've had, I don't know of anything, I don't know if John has, of somebody being entangled in something else other than the wheel. So we're concentrating on the wheel. So the emergency evacuation ladder, it has 2 pins on it. The 2 pins go in the 2 holes on the anti-climber. This ladder looks like it's at a really poor angle. That's because this is embedded track and not ballast track like you'll find out on the revenue. So that's why it doesn't fit as like it should. It would fit much better on the regular tracks. All right, let's walk down. You all can gather around real quick. I just wanted to show you the EEDR. John's going to close the doors on the train.
Stay clear, stay clear. Doors closing. Stay clear.
Step back. Doors closing.
So if you didn't have a set of Metro keys and you need to get inside the rail car, go to the center door, look for the fire department sticker. Go ahead and lift that up. Turn the handle to the right, a quarter turn. Excellent. Go over here and push back the doors. It's that simple. Now, sometimes when you activate the EEDR, the doors may not spring back, and you may think, oh, that didn't work. Go physically put your hand on the door and push it backwards. So if this was a legacy train, if you can look right behind us, you notice that, right here, I'm sorry, you notice it's on the opposite side. So when we activate that, only the door closest to you will push back. The other one remains locked. Once inside, you can unlock that by going above the door. So we've done some changes. Maybe you guys have taken Metro training years ago. All the equipment that the fire department may need are now in the front of the train. So your fire extinguisher is always in the operator's cab. There's only one per car. The only difference in that is on the B car because we don't have an operator's cab, right? So it's in a locked cabinet, but it has a fire department sticker on it, and you use your what key? Double X barrel key. The bulkhead ladder, always to the right of the door as you're coming into the rail car. On a legacy train, there's a revenue seat right on the inside of the door. On the side of that revenue seat is a compartment that has a fire department sticker. You use your double X barrel key to unlock it. The ladder slides out. The last thing that you may need to know about, can you grab the red bag for me? Is the red bag. It's an emergency evacuation kit. It's really meant for the train operator, but we give it to you folks, or we tell you about it because we want you to use what in there in the event of evacuation. Remember I talked about all the people that may be on this train, may not be able to give everybody individual instructions, so they need some type of a guide to follow to get to the out of the system. So we have a bullhorn, a vest, but glow sticks. If you remember, you bend them in half to activate them, shake them. You would lay these down along the roadway, which I know is different than your SOPs, but the way Metro wants you to use them is you lay them out as a guide for them to exit the system. Metro feels that your best bet is to shelter in place if you have customers on board a train. If that's not possible and you have to evacuate, do a roadway evacuation, we don't feel that the emergency exits is the preferred method. Please remember that this is all incident driven. I can't tell you what you're going to face, but I can tell you it's probably easier for you and easier on the customers to walk to the closest platform. When I talked about the releases above the door, Tom, do you want to release that? So every door has a valance cover, and the valance cover has two thumb screws. Unscrew them, and you're going to look for an orange handle. It's going to be right above the, so up above the valance cover on a 7K, right above the left-hand window is an orange handle. All you do is pour down the orange handle, and it opens up the doors just like the EEDR on the outside. Inside, on both sides of the center door, there's emergency, they're called PI handles, passenger initiated evacuation handles, that the customers can use to evacuate the train. Most folks that ride Metro don't even realize this is available to them until you strand them out there on a hot train and somebody takes the time to read the instructions. And then they can go over. The train has to be stopped. The train cannot be in motion when it won't allow the customer to pull the handle down, but they break the little lead tab by pulling on it. They pull down on the orange handle and both center doors will open up. So there is a way in which the customers can evacuate the train. On the legacy train, that PI handle, just like the outside EEDR, will only open up the door closest to you. For the customer, they'd have to go over, push back the door, and then they can exit the rail car. One thing I forgot to mention, there are lockouts on these doors. On a 7K, it's the smaller orange handle. We don't want to use that. That's for car maintenance. If there was an issue on this rail car, maybe the HVAC system's not working, maybe somebody got sick on the rail car and we have to isolate it, they can come in and lock out the doors and we can get this train to the end of the line and then take it off. So they can manually come in and lock these doors. The EEDR and this overrides that, correct, John?
Yes. Also, there's a solenoid in here. So unless the zero speed relay is deactivated, this solenoid actually blocks this handle. So if the train is moving 1 mile an hour, you cannot pull this handle.
Right.
So only at a complete stop will these doors, open.
Right. The handles above the doors do not have any safety features. That's why they're not marked. They're only for first responders, the fire department, Metro Transit Police, and then obviously car maintenance. So let me go back and talk about the windows. So if you remember, we used to teach you about the legacy trains, finding the zip strip separation, usually at the 12 or 6 o'clock position, using a large flat-headed screwdriver, prying that out, pulling the zip strip out, then knocking the window out. That's not, you don't have that option on a 7K. The 7K sits in two metal frames. There's an interior black frame and then a silver outer frame that the windows actually sit in. We had different fire departments come out and they came up with this best practice. The best way to remove a 7K window is by cutting it. Take the Halligan bar, a point, make a purchase point in the window, Sawzall battery operated with a wood blade. Fine metal cutting blades don't work as well. Cut the window on three sides, flap it out. The fire department also came up with, well, a lot of times our Sawzalls have the metal cutting blade on them. So you just walked 1,000 feet down to an event that you need to use the Sawzall to make entry into the rail car. Shock the window with the back of the adze, shatter it. Then that way the saw blade will just go through the cracks and it's a lot easier than trying to cut a solid piece of safety glass. All windows on all trains are the same. You can use a flat-headed axe, short chopping motions. You can use a rotary saw. Doesn't matter the blade type, not for the window. Why do I tell you about this? Because the way energy is absorbed in these rail cars during a collision is down the sides of the car. And a lot of times, even in a low-speed collision as slow as 7 miles an hour, these doors will be jammed shut. So your next best option, if you can't work your way up from the ends through the consist, is to go through a window. So now we're in the B car. No operator's cab. We have the hostler panel. The train operator can operate this train from the hostler panel, but we don't do that in revenue service. This is exclusively used in the yard to make a consist or to move it into the shop for repairs. On mainline, if an operator has a problem with something in the operator's cab, he'll move back to the next operator's compartment to activate and move the train. Across from it is in a compartment that has the fire department sticker on it. That's where you'll find the other fire extinguisher on the B car. Everything's the same inside. Doesn't have the fire equipment cabinet, but the releasing of the doors and that sort of thing is the same. Also has the evacuation handle at the center door. We teach that you lift from underneath the truck. Our trains have jack pads. But we don't teach to lift from a jack pad. Our rail car and our truck are tethered, if you will. It's not like a freight train where the truck and the car can separate very easily. Our cars are tethered in 3 different ways. 2 3Ks have a wire cable that connects to the truck and the body of the car. On a 7K, in the center there is a kingpin, a center pin. It's almost like a wedge design. So if the car and the truck start to separate, they wedge together to tether the truck along with the car. On a 6K, it's an orange J-hook that keeps the truck and the car together. One of the reasons we don't lift from the car body is sometimes you have to lift extra just to get the truck or the wheel to move due to that design. Usually if you lift underneath the truck, if you lift 2 inches, you get almost 2 inches of lift. So when we talk about lifting, we want you to lift off the frame. The 7K and the 2 3K are very similar. They have a lot of flat area that you can lift from. The only thing you should not lift from is from this pedestal tie bar. It's behind each of the 4 wheels. That will not support the weight of the train. But anywhere else you can use. We used to teach airbags. That's really not a good option nowadays, especially with your new hydraulic lifting cylinders. Remember, we're going to go out here and train, we don't have a body in our way. When you go out into the real world and you get somebody that's struck by a train, you're going to have to work around the person that's laying in the roadway. A lot of times that doesn't provide enough area to use airbags. So lifting cylinders or a portable bottle jack, usually 20 tons at minimum, will lift a train at least 1 wheel off the ground. Right here, right underneath the wheel. And usually, whatever's there is paper thin. When we talk about lifting, we're not lifting this flange of the wheel above the ball of the rail. So if you can look through here and see daylight, you've lifted the train too far. Your lift is probably going to be a 1/2 inch, 3/4 at most. Just so you can pull whatever piece of skin is underneath that wheel. It's very quick. We don't crib. It's a quick lift up, snatch the person's body part out, and we're moving. Usually the person doesn't have a lot of time, so it's a quick lift, snatch them from underneath, and we're moving to get them out. That's why it's important when you're doing the lift, you have to have somebody working on your extra, how are you going to move them? Don't wait until you've extricated them and spent all that time and now you don't have a plan. So you have to have a plan on trying to get them out.
Do you have to crib, John?
No, you do not have to crib. Let me tell you something. The cribbing that you have on your squad is pine. It will not capture the weight of this rail car. We've done it many times, and as soon as we take the jack out, the rail car rests back down on the running rail. It just crushes the pine. So, and like I said, as long as you don't move this flange above the ball of the rail, this rail car is not moving anywhere. If you take the flange above the ball, which I don't know why you would, then you have to think about what other forces are on this train if it's going to move one way or the other. Axle. We have lifted off the axle of the train, and actually it does pretty good, but obviously it's around and your jack head is flat. My personal opinion, I don't think that is something that can't be tried. Like I said again, you're lifting the train up just a little bit and moving the body part out, and you're not going to lift the flange above the ball of the rail. The gearbox and the electrical motor could be used, not with a hydraulic cylinder, but maybe airbags. If that's for some reason you have to use them, you have to spread the weight out. Both of those components are cast. Where's John? You'll just puncture it. You won't capture the weight of the train. So if you're going to use lifting jacks, you have to be on something solid. We're going to stay with the frame. When you're out in an event, you can lift off anything. You can, if you can't, for some reason, it's a 6K, you can't find a place to lift off the frame, you can try something different. I know the last event that we had, DC Fire lifted off not the frame, and it worked out just fine. Because that's the only place they could find a spot to lift due to the fact that the person was kind of spread out. Sandpost. Miss anything?
Any questions, please ask them,
John, have you ever known of anybody ever getting trapped anything besides a wheel? Heard of anything?
just pinched in the wheel, and like you said, I mean, it's only like the size of a dime that the wheel touches the running rail. So
Avenue, guy got caught up in.
So you make that
Like a
lift
shoe
as
in
soon
the
as
third rail.
as soon as that weight comes off of it, I mean, that's all you need.
Yeah.
They die.
Yeah. So
Fly when they left.
Steve was talking about, we did have one who got tangled up in the collector shoe, which is still part of the truck assembly. You would probably still, maybe if you have to lift to remove them, you would still do the same type of lift off the frame. So, but most of the time, it's usually the wheel that captures. I believe. So if you had to crawl underneath the train to get to the person, you can move this coupler out of the way so you don't smack your head on the horn. And then you have clear access all the way down. A lot of times the fire department uses the area of refuge underneath the platform to move down to the patient. If you have to move equipment, the best place to exchange that is at the married pair. Remember, the car body is 3.5 inches away from the platform. But where the married pair come together, there's a big wide opening that you can pass cribbing, medical supplies, what have you, down to the people working under the train.
All of those series cars have this.
Yep. Any questions?
Nothing around here.
No, you're going to drop third rail power. And when we do that, what's the only power that's on board the train? batteries, 37.5 volts.
That's what we dump still, or
That's what's produced by the batteries.
you just dump?
Oh no, the capacitor discharge switches, no, no more. They automatically no on any. That's right, on any of them. They automatically discharge when third rail power is dropped. Captain, you have something?
If we have somebody with a platform in the car,
Okay.
and you're pushing, let your car push back.
So John was changed our thought process on this. I saw a video. So in the years past, we told you to drop the bellows, the airbags, to cut them out and deflate them. Actually, that is counterproductive. Leaving air in the bellows makes the train very flexible. 2 people can get a car rocking by pushing on it. And John showed me that over at Greenbelt.
We have a big platform over here where we can all fit in the video, and if you big video, we can,
Okay.
simulate something right now.
So, okay. So getting back to your question, yes, if you're going to push a side push, you're going to have to use large airbags, and you should probably try to use a jack plate or something, because the airbag is going to try to pillow underneath the platform. And if you look at the side of the rail car, it also is shaped where it starts to go away from the platform. The old thin truck jack plates that we used to use is a great thing to slide down behind the airbag to keep it from pillowing. You can use wood, it's going to crack, but you still provide you a little bit to keep the force towards the train. You're only going to get about 4.5 inches of push, and then that's it. The last one we had, the customer was deceased, but we had to remove them. So we just pushed the train back and slid them down to the married pair, and then brought them up through that opening there. Usually, if you have somebody in that position, you want to put people underneath to help with anything that may get stuck, like a belt. A lot of times the belt or something would get stuck on the platform. So having a couple people down below, you guys use your airbag to push the train away, and then you maybe put a sling around them to help you pull them out. And then you would, hopefully one day at CTF, at our training facility, we're going to have an opportunity to do that type of training. We really don't have anywhere in the yards to do that training anymore, but it's airbags to push the train, and you get about 4.5 inches of push.